Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
Welcome to another edition of Mental Health Monday. It's that time of the week where we talk about mental health on the radio. It's exactly what we do here at Radio City Talk. Thank you for checking out the show. And once again, we've got a fantastic guest in the studio who is going to be sharing their journey, their own mental health journey, as well as their experiences. On the programme this week, we meet the founder of an organisation which is just getting up and running right here on Merseyside, doing fantastic work and loads of aspirations for the future of the work they hope to do. Delighted to say from Sean's Place, we have Debbie Rogers in the studio. Debbie, great to see you. How are you? Thanks for coming in today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's an honour to be here.
Now, you had a session last night, didn't you?
Yes.
At Sean's Place. You're just getting up and running, but it went well and things are going well.
But considering there was quite a big football match on at exactly the same time as our event, it went okay. We just need to time it a little bit better next time. But yeah, the impact of it is exactly what we wanted. We had men coming through the door. There was loads of positive discussions about, mental health and how people have found their experiences and what they find works for them. And what we found is when we're having these discussions, people are learning from each other's stories and they're finding places they can signpost themselves to or techniques they can learn from each other. So yeah, it was a really positive evening. So we got what we wanted from it, which was great.
Brilliant stuff. We can talk about what those events are, where they're being held and how people can get involved in. We've got loads of time on the programme today to talk about that and more. I know that because the big focus on men's mental health in November, that you guys are really trying to push the message of Sean's Place. But let's focus on where Sean's Place has come from. And let's talk about Sean, because it's his name above the door. And I guess Sean is never far from your thoughts when you embark in one of these sessions and open the doors and welcome those people into your space.
Yeah, Sean is always at the forefront of my mind whenever I'm making decisions about Sean's Place. So Sean was my brother. He was 34. And he had a long journey with mental health. He never quite got the right support for him, and eventually he got really, really poorly with it. He didn't meet the criteria for hospital and he ended up taking his own life in July, which is very recent. But for years, there was conversations between, his mental health team and myself to try and find stuff in the community that Sean could access. He felt so isolated. He never really had any friends. And it wasn't through want of trying. He was just the loveliest lad. He was funny. He had loads to offer people. He just couldn't see it for himself. So when Sean passed away, and I had loads of people messaging me saying, my brother's in the same situation, or my husband, my friend, there was just such a need there for this to happen. Therapy and counselling is great and it works for a lot of people, as does medication. But there's also that social side of things that I felt for Sean was always missing. He was a great artist, for example. He loved art, he loved telling jokes. And as I say, he'd have been a great friend, but he was never quite found the right circumstances to be in where that could be explored further. So we looked at different places he could perhaps attend, but there was always like a barrier, like he had to be over 60 or he had to be under 21. Or, I know the mental health workers they did try, but it was constantly like, oh, there's a gym just down the road he can access. But Sean had quite bad anxiety. So for Sean to access a gym would be massive. And even just getting through that door was a barrier for him. So I think if we'd have found somewhere sooner, which was specifically for men who all had the same background, they all had that understanding of mental illness, that barrier and that stigma is already removed and that pressure's gone before they open the door. So that's what we've created with Sean's Place. And obviously it's lovely for me as Sean's sister to call it Sean's Place because it means that people are saying his name, he's still being remembered and he's at the forefront of everything that we're doing, really.
So in terms of the sort of the diagnosis, if you like, of Sean's mental illness, the isolation and the feeling of isolation was part of the mental illness, but actually there was a real sense that physically there was no way out of that isolation because physically within the community he couldn't find the space, that even though the mental health illness was maybe part of the issue of feeling isolated, there wasn't a solution within the community, and a physical solution could have been part of a solution from his mental health point of view.
Yeah, it's very see, Sean was from Knowsley and I live in Sefton, so there is some places in Sefton that people can access now, It's very limited, which is why we set up Sean's Place. But in Knowsley, when we tried to find things, there wasn't an awareness of it. It's not to say it wasn't there, it's just we wasn't aware of where these places are. And his own community team who were looking after them weren't aware. And I think some training needs to come into that, and I've highlighted that as part of the investigation and stuff, that mental health workers need to have an understanding of these places so they can signpost people to them, because they are available, it's just accessing them. And sadly, when Sean died, all these things happened too late, didn't they? And I found a couple of places that he could have actually accessed that were specifically targeted for people with a mental illness. So yeah.
How did you find them in the end?
It was through people coming to me after Sean died and said, "Oh, did you ever look at this place? There's an app, for example, called Hub of Hope. You type in your postcode and it brings up all the brilliant stuff in your area." But I didn't find out about that till a week after Sean had died, when someone said, "Oh, I was on a training course ages ago. I wish I'd have told you about it." So I'm, on social media now. I just think collaborating with other organisations is key. There's no competition in this at all. The more services there is to help people, the better. So I'm all for advocating other services, telling people where they can go. There's some amazing places in Sefton, for example, that people can access. And I think it's important that these are shared as widely as possible.
Absolutely. And it's why at the end of every single episode of this programme, I point people in the direction of the Hub of Hope. And I don't get I don't get a brown envelope through the post whenever I give it a mention.
Yeah.
Because it's basically just a database.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of, if you needed a GP, you'd Google the name of your local doctors, or you'd type in doctors in this local area, and it'd bring up the list as well. But, it's one of those where, if that was part of the NHS, if that was part of, the narrative, in the way that know if there's an emergency, you call 999.
Yeah.
Then that would just allow people the opportunity to try and find something. And the first thing they try might not work, but the second thing might be absolutely perfect, which is why that service is so key. And it's why I'll also give it a plug at the end of this episode. Did you ever get a sense of what it was that Sean would have needed or wanted? What was that space? Was it about the room? Was it about the people who'd be in it? Was it about the things they were doing? Would it be about the conversations they were having? What did you get the sense that Sean would have been looking for?
I wish for Sean that there would have been a lot more things that focused on positivity and thinking about the future and looking at Sean's strengths. A lot of what we're doing at Sean's Place is all about future focused and talking about your aspirations and what you're good at, as opposed to delving into talking about the past. And as much as that needs to happen in some circumstances, what we found from a lot of Sean's therapy that he was having, it was all focused around the past and things that were upsetting him, and bringing all them feelings to the front of his mind, when if there'd been that balance between doing that, to support that area, but also focusing on what Sean was good at. Because as I say, he was good at art, he was a great person, he had a lot to offer, but because that was never discussed with him and never highlighted, or he was never given the opportunity to be able to go and explore that further, he never seen that within himself and never believed it. So I think a lot more needs to be done to focus on that area. And
I guess as well a sense that we're still in the early stages of our full understanding of mental health and the requirement of those people who are having mental health, either crisis or illness, that actually Sean was in the system. Yeah. If you like, and the system was doing its best within the system that it had, but there was still, a demand or a need for something else, another aspect of it. And it's kind of always worth remembering that sometimes we think, well, we say to people, go and see your GP, because then you can be, passed on to a different organisation or socially prescribed something. But that's still very much the start of a journey, isn't it? And I feel like it's great that these things are happening now. Obviously, it's come too late for Sean. I think it's good that people are now recognising that, signposting to people to things in the community where they can be amongst other people. And, it doesn't have to be, going and sitting in a therapy room. Therapy could be anything. Therapy could be mixing with people and doing gardening or doing artwork or, having conversations. And
that, as you say, this is a new thing that is, that is being recognised, if you like. It's not new to us. We know that this has been needed for a while, but the government have obviously woken up and recognised this as well. So hopefully, as things start to change, we'll see more places like Sean's Place opening because the need is there for it.
You've had a few pilot days and a couple of sessions, including one just yesterday. The men who came through the door, did they come through the door kind of like, walk past a couple of times first, before deciding whether or not to come through? Did they say, have I come to the right place? I always try and put myself in the position of somebody in that situation who maybe is racked with maybe social anxiety, doesn't really know if they're supposed to speak out, but then knows there's somewhere to go. But of course, do you want to go through the door? What's the first person who sees you going to say to you?
I think we were so overwhelmed by what happened on the first pilot because it was the first time we didn't know what was going to happen, who was going to come, and the difference in the people coming through the door to then leaving at the end of our pilot was just, it was heartwarming, and it was just overwhelming. They were just so nervous when they first came in. They didn't know what to expect. But luckily we had, we were in our Sean's Place t-shirt, so they knew who they could go to as soon as they come in. It was a case of just making them a cup of tea, showing them around the building, giving them some options of what they might want to do. And, we do provide sessions, but that's optional. Some people just want to come for a cup of tea. And we actually had two guys, which was so lovely and completely unplanned, who decided to find a little corner in the venue and just sit there for over an hour just having a conversation, and we thought people wanted structure and they wanted this session and that session, when actually they just wanted to have a chat. And it was so lovely to see they were able to share the stories with each other. And I think you can't put your finger on the impact that it has, but that's all people want. They just want a safe space to be able to talk, and that's all they needed.
And this is the theme, Debbie, that comes around on this programme all the time, that actually people, they're not looking for sort of the magic bullet, if you like. In many ways, a lot of people seem to just be looking for a space where you can sit and have a chat with somebody. It's a really simple thing, but in this era of, I've got 10,000 friends on Facebook, or, I've got 1 million followers on Twitter. I haven't, by the way. Or, my Instagram is looked at people by all over the world. What people still yearn for is to sit down with somebody, to have a conversation, to look somebody in the eye and make that human connection, because we've been sold this world where you don't need that anymore. You work all the time, you have no time for yourself, but if you want a social life, you've got to do it through a phone. Yeah. And actually then people are I think then looking around going, hang on a minute, what is it supposed to be, this existence? Yeah. What is this life we're supposed to be living there? And you've created that space for those people to have that connection.
And the feedback that we got as well, it wasn't just about talking to anybody, it was about talking to people who understood it. And the big thing for me with Sean's Place is anybody that's running a session or volunteering, they've all got some sort of lived experience with mental health themselves, or they've supported family members through it. So when we're having them conversations with them, it's a bit of a nod to say, do you know what, we get it, we understand. We had one guy who said to us, with all due respect, this is great, but I could talk to you till the cows come home and you wouldn't understand it unless you've been through it. And when I explained to him that everybody there actually were either going through it themselves at the moment or they've been through it, so they do understand it, he completely relaxed and opened up, because he knew that, as I say, it's like a silent nod, as if to say, we get it. And it just gives them the confidence to be able to speak to us openly without, and I'm not saying that people who haven't been through it don't understand it and they are judgmental. But I think for me, it was important when I opened Sean's Place that I was careful about who I have helping out with me and stuff.
We've got Debbie Rogers on the programme. It's Radio City Talk and Mental Health Monday, talking about the launch of Sean's Place. Sean, Debbie's brother, who took his own life just in the summer of this year. Debbie, I must ask you about that, because that's still very, very recently, isn't it? And the fact that you're sort of launching this service and been up and running with it almost straight away, have you felt like the time that you've had to sort of remember Sean for your own personal grief and to deal with it has been enough, or is that something that's ongoing for you as well?
Yeah, this has pretty much been like therapy for me, because obviously Sean he was like I've got 3 children. We always called Sean our 4th child. He practically lived with us. He come on holiday with us. Since we were kids, it's always, there's 5 of us, brothers and sisters, but it was always Debbie and Sean. We done everything together because we were very close in age. So when we lost him, it was massive. It was really, really difficult to handle. But then, obviously, with people messaging me saying, my brother's in a similar situation, I'm really worried about my husband, what can I do? I thought, this needs to happen now, and what a perfect time to do it, and honour Sean in this way. And also, it would support all my focus into that, because I do have 3 young children, I still have a job that I have to keep going, so I couldn't let myself grieve too much, as much as I still am grieving. But we've still got Sean's inquest that's ongoing at the moment. There's a serious investigation case at the hospital that's ongoing, so there's a lot that I'm dealing with. So Sean's place is my escape as well. And I did say that to the guys who came into us, that as much as you think I'm helping you, you're actually helping me. So it's a collaborative effort at the moment with everyone that's coming through the door.
You've got plenty of ideas, as well as the idea of just sitting down and having a cup of tea and a coffee with somebody as well. What are those things you've explored in terms of things to do, activities that you can get people involved in?
Yeah, so when we were looking at setting this up, we spoke to a lot of men through a survey that was shared online quite a number of times, actually. And we put out a few ideas of what sessions might, be of interest. Because at the end of the day, I can sit there and say, you have a mental health illness, I know how to fix this, but in reality I don't. So it was important that the sessions that we run were picked by the people who were going to be using the service. So a lot of people said they like the idea of mindfulness, because it might help them to relax and ease their anxiety. So we've got mindfulness, we've had art. The art went down a storm. It was great. It was mindfulness without knowing it was mindfulness, if that makes sense. And again, people were chatting while they were mixing the paints and making this gorgeous little piece of art that they could take home with them as well. We had a hypnotherapist in last night, which went down really well again. He was great. And then we've got potential to have a forest school, gardening, this is over at our other venue, and there's also a kitchen in there as well. So we've had offers of people coming in to run cookery sessions, and these are all life skills that will boost confidence as well. But it's about that, again, it's that social aspect of it, about doing something like this together.
But also things that otherwise you wouldn't do, because a lot of people wouldn't. They go, I used to fancy getting into art when I was at school. I used to be really good at it. But you wouldn't then go and join an art club. You can do if you want, by the way. But it's interesting that actually when you give people a reason to go to one of these things, they really go for it. Because you know what? It's fun. Yeah, and it's interesting, and you learn stuff.
Yeah, I actually had my husband last night. He was, I was calling him a life model. He had clothes on. He was fully dressed. But he was actually the model for the art session last night. And, it was fun. He was taking the mickey out of himself. But the artwork was actually brilliant that come out of it. Like, I'm not very good at art, but the other guys were saying exactly the same. But then the artwork was fantastic. So I think the aim of Sean's place is to boost confidence, and by doing that, I'm hoping that something that's fun and, a little bit of ingest is actually saying, oh, actually, I'm really good at doing this, and they'll come back and try it again next time, maybe use different materials, use a different setting, but the floor is there for them to be able to explore all these different things that they might potentially be good at.
Have you got a downstairs toilet that you could frame one of those pictures up and put in?
Yeah, he wants a bit of a shrine in the house, I think. He did say when we get our own venue in a couple of years' time, or whenever it's going to be, that we'll have them all framed around the venue. Just
tell us about the venues that you've been using, because you've been looking to get up and running in Sefton as well. You've obviously mentioned the connection with Knowsley. It's Connect Studios in Seaforth, right? That you've sort of set up shop, if you like.
Yeah, Connect Studios have been amazing. They've only been open themselves for a year, but the venue is absolutely beautiful. They've got loads of lovely relaxing murals on the wall. It's it's really welcoming. I feel really proud to host Sean's place from there. And the guys that own it have given us this space for free for whenever we need it, because they believe themselves and the value of doing this. So we feel very, very lucky to be there. And then we've had another offer of a venue at the other end of Bootle called Community by Nature, who have also offered to give us their space for free. They're the guys with the kitchen and the garden. So we're able to have Sean's place, but in different settings, running different sessions for them, to really have this holistic view of, what Sean's place is.
What are you hoping? You mentioned before about the narrative of people saying to you, have you heard about this, or have you gone to this place, or did you check out the Hub of Hope? How are you hoping that Sean's Place fits into maybe a response to someone who's in need of mental health support, or how it fits into, someone's almost like their social life, if you like, to be an ongoing thing? What do you see the role of Sean's Place in the future?
So we've been linking up with a couple of businesses at the moment as well, because Sean's Place is obviously going to be open for day for anybody to be able to access. But there's a lot of people who work full time on building sites, in banks, who also need that support. Sickness absence is massive at the moment in organisations. So we're looking at opening evenings as well, so that we're not just, there for people who are able to access it for a day. We're also open for people who can only access it of an evening. We've also been very lucky. We've made a lot of contacts with people in different organisations in the community, so that if there's something that we're not able to help with, we've got a very good relationship with somebody else that might be able to help. And again, it's about providing that holistic support throughout Sefton. So if we can't provide a level of support to them, we know somebody who can.
I was going to say, because that's a big responsibility as well that you take on, that if you become part of people's sort of social life and sort of part of their own mental health journey as well, there's a responsibility, I guess, from your part to always make sure that there's an offer there, that there are new ideas, that the door's essentially always open for people.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's set hours.
Yeah, exactly. And even when we are closed, we've linked up, like there's a group, for example, called Taking Root, and they look after the local parks and do the gardening in there. So we're very conscious that when Sean's Place is closed, where can we tell people they can go? So we've been trying to build up like a bit of a timetable, if you like, to say, well, look, if we're only open Thursday afternoon, on Tuesday afternoon you could go here. Eventually the dream is to be open every day and, every evening. But at the moment, because we are only starting off, we don't have any money in the pot yet. We've got people helping us out voluntarily. We can only do a small amount. We don't want to run before we can walk, if that makes sense, because I'm a firm believer that we have to get this right. We can't open and get it wrong, which is why we're trialling out the ideas to make sure that the sessions we have are right for the people that are using it. So when we open properly in a couple of months' time, that we get it right for them.
Absolutely, and people will have heard various different, they're featured on this programme as well, places that come in the name of an individual with the word place, and each of them offers something a little bit different, but it's about finding that as well. Have you signed up Sean's Place onto the Hub of Hope yet?
No, not yet, because we haven't officially registered the business. We're just in the process of, finding our advisory board, doing all like the legal stuff, which has to happen behind the scenes. And not a lot of people don't. I've just done a 4-year business degree, for example. It hasn't taught me anything of what I needed to do to set up a business. So we've got all of the front line in place. We've got our volunteers, we've got the people who want to access the service. We just have to do all the bits and bobs that go behind it now. And then, yes, Sean's Place will 100% be on Hub of Hope.
And what's it like there? And you've obviously had the early sessions as well. What's it like having people essentially come through the door looking for the service that Sean would have been looking for? Yeah. And it wasn't there when or Sean couldn't find it, but people are finding it now in Sean's name and because of the work that you've done. Yeah, it's bittersweet, really, because obviously it's just heartbreaking, and it does get me sometimes to think that, if only I'd have found this when Sean was alive, he might still be here now. So I do have to, stop, and it takes your breath away a bit when you think about it. But then when you realise that because of Sean, we're now helping other people, it just makes me really proud. I've always been proud of Sean, so I feel proud to talk about him now and to be helping other people through his story and through his name. And you should be incredibly proud of the work that you're doing yourself in terms of getting up and running and supporting people in a similar position to Sean, and plenty of other people who'll come through the door for various different reasons over the coming weeks, months and years as well. So just tell us, when are you hoping to be sort of officially up and running? When can people sort of definitely say, right, Sean's Place, it's part of the community now? Yeah, fingers crossed. We're hoping to do a big launch in January. We've got a supporters event next Sunday. We've had loads of offers of support. So we're getting everybody together to say, okay, what can we do? Let's get a timetable together with the offers that we've had. Then throughout December, we'll have another event. And then we're looking to do like keeping in touch days, where it might be a walk along the beach together, or it might be a game of badminton, just so people know that we're still there for them and we are doing something to get up and running. And then hopefully January we can officially open our doors. But
It'll be Thursday afternoons, Sunday evenings, Tuesday afternoons, and I think it's going to be Tuesday evenings, but we're just waiting to get that confirmed.
Make sure, Debbie, you give us a heads up just as you're getting underway, and obviously we'll try and be there for the launch as well, and we'll certainly give it another plug on the programme when you're up and running and when people can come and knock on the door as well. In terms of finding more about you, you're up and about on, is Facebook a good place to go?
Yeah, we're on all social media, so we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn as well.
What do people need to type in other than Sean's Place? Is Sean's Place enough to get you up there at the top?
Sean's Place will find you, yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Debbie, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you joining us on the programme. Good luck with everything. Obviously, the ongoing issues that you've got in regard to things like the inquest as well.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best for that one as well. And with the continued work you're doing with Sean's Place, if people want to turn to social media, they can find out plenty of information. And, Debbie did my job earlier by plugging the Hub of Hope, which I always mention at the end of the show. But it is a wonderful database of mental health services that are close to you. You can find them by typing in your postcode or simply using the location device on your app. Hub of Hope and hubofhope.co.uk is where you can find out more information. Debbie Rogers, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us on Mental Health Monday.
Thank you.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
On Radio City Talk.